Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Estate Right Now, where we talk about real estate matters that matter to you. My name is Jay Izzo, and we are live here from Lindencraft Team Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina, part of the Greater Research Triangle Park. Today's show, full disclosure, I used to teach statistics at Washington State University, and because I have like 15 graduate hours of stats, all the way up to quasi-multivariate statistics, just little sideline information. But here's the thing about statistics. Statistics, oftentimes, what we do is we look at statistics and we say, okay, this is what happened, and is that significant? But there's another side of statistics that says, can we do predictive statistics? Meaning, is there something that, is there a stat that we can look at that goes, can we predict what may happen in the future? That's what we call predictive. So I had to bring in an expert. So the numbers guy, professional, when it comes to numbers, his name's Tony Fink. You know him. He's been on the show before, senior listing and buyer specialist with Lindencraft Team Realtors. And we're going to talk about, are there some indicators that could tell us about the real estate market that's going on right now and what may happen in the future? And that's all about probabilities, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Tony, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Jay. And for a disclaimer, I learned most of my stats and my data analytics with Thoreau at Notre Dame, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn once.
I love that.
So I'm totally comfortable giving people my opinion, as long as you understand it's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, as long as you stayed in Holiday Inn Express, exactly. I'm okay. You'll do my surgery later.
Exactly.
So thank you for doing that. Okay, so I kind of introed this show with different types of statistics that we can use but usually we see things in the past and then we go, this is what's happened.
Right.
But we're going to talk about leading market indicators.
Yeah, and it's a really important point, and I love the setup, especially on the predictive set of it. And what's really interesting, I am a liberal arts major. I did study English and American Studies. I'm still trying to figure out what that major was, but I got credit for it, so that's all good. But it's a melding of stats and behaviors. Mm-hmm. And when Jay and I were chatting a little bit about how I evaluate a market real time, because if you buy stocks, right, there's a bid and an ask, and it's a very fluid market. It's very efficient is what it's referred to.
Right.
The real estate market, unfortunately, isn't. And the reason for that is most of the stats that are available to the average individual are trailing indicators. Now, they're useful information, but they're looking 30, 60, 90 days ago. And a perfect example is a lot of individuals and a lot of agents will focus heavily on close date.
Right, right.
Well, Jay, in North Carolina, typical closing is 45 days.
Okay. So we've
does close date really matter, or does contract date matter more? What was going on when the contract was actually signed? And that is a much better indicator.
Yep.
If I have a buyer client going under contract in Thanksgiving time, Christmas time, guess what? We're trying to close 90 days later. Does that sale really give anybody looking to buy 90 days later any true indication of how to make an offer, or a seller, and how to strategize and position their property for success?
Right. It doesn't work nearly as well because we don't have the right. We're looking at the wrong numbers.
Well, you're looking at what are called trailing indicators if you study economics. So leading indicators are always really good. And the stock market is a perfect example of a leading indicator. When the stock market's doing well, it's forecasting, in theory, good growth in the economy. When the stock market starts to falter, it's sort of telegraphing or leading you to the expectation, not the reality. You always have to see what happens. So one of the things I do, and I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I have my handy dandy little Fink facts. So if you're on social media, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, you can see this stuff every month. And what I do is on the first of every month, and I've been doing this for a couple of years.
Yes, you have.
I pull the entirety of the Triangle area MLS, multiple listing service, but then I narrow it down to what I call the Lindencraft Team Realtors primary trade market. And that is the majority. It makes up about 2/3 on average, if not more, of the total area. And the reason I do that is our multiple listing service. Again, the multiple listing service, think of it like a clearinghouse, Jay. kind of like the stock market, right? You got to go somewhere to clear all these transactions. It's growing. So it's bringing in additional geographies that if you wanted to buy a fabulous house in Chapel Hill, or a wonderful property in Raleigh, or an amazing condo in Clayton.
You could go to Wilmington now, right?
Yes, we pick up a very broad area,
yeah, right.
but too broad for me as a market specialist to give you true indications on listing price or bid price.
Well, and this is the problem, right? The problem is if your market gets too broad, you got to narrow it back down in order for it to make sense in your area, which is why sometimes national statistics really don't mean a whole lot to you locally.
They don't. I mean, it's a telegraph of what's happening on, as you said, the macro environment.
Right.
So real estate's interesting. When you go to buy a house, build a house, or sell a house, you want to have a sense of macro events, right? What's going on with tax laws? What's going on with interest rates? What's going on with banks? But you really need to dial into the local, the micro.
Right.
And by the way, I passed micro, I failed macro. So I had to drop it. Those are the only two business classes I took at school. So, that helps you. So one of the things I look at on the first of every month, and then I focus mostly on our primary trade area, is I look at the number of total listings.
Okay.
And I compare that month over month over month. And I compare that month over year and look back. And then the next thing I do is I look at what percentage of those homes are under contract.
Okay.
Now, why do I do that? Well, I do that because I really want to get a sense for how fast is the market moving? How strong is buyer demand? Because, Jay, I'm sure you know, the basics of all economics is supply and demand. So if I track listed homes, I can see whether or not supply is increasing, which, by the way, it has been increasing every month this year. Okay. And over the last 3 years, it's about at the highest level it's been.
Oh, well, that's actually kind of good news.
It's good news for buyers. It's also good news for sellers.
I think so.
Because we're in a balanced market.
Right.
Okay. And all a balanced market means is there's equal motivation, equal negotiating leverage on both sides of the trade.
Which is easier to create a win-win.
It is.
Yeah.
So when you look at the percentage under contract, which right now is at 41%.
Okay.
Back during the pandemic, Jay, it was over 70. So if you look at supply constraint, if there's 10,000 homes, which approximately there are on our primary trade area as of September 1st, and 41% are under contract, whatever that math is,
4,100,
right? You got a lot of options. If 75% were under contract,
7,500,
you got a lot fewer options, and that's in all price ranges.
Right. Yeah. And then then subtracting that out, you only have 2,500. If you're in the market, there's only 2,500 homes left to pick from. If it's at 75, at the 41, you've got 5,900 homes to now, out there on the market, which just makes things better for you as a buyer. But you're right. That's a really good statistic to have in mind. And I don't know that many people talk about it that way.
Well, I hope they don't, but we're sharing the knowledge.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's good. Yeah.
Not everyone's had the chance to stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
No, but you have, and that's awesome.
And so again, this information, I loved your thought predictive, right? This is point in time. It is, back from my banking days, directionally accurate. It's not 100% reliable. It's not going to tell you what's going to be happening tomorrow morning, right? This is generally done the first of every month at 7 a.m.
Right. But what we can do, and this is the statistician in me, says, well, we've increased our probability of how accurate we can be in predicting the market. Now, remember, this is probability, folks, right? So there is a chance that we're wrong, but we get better and better as we know in any sort of correlation or regression coefficient. If we start to see a market trending in this particular direction over the course of several months, it does give us some predictive validity of what we may see the next day, right? It's not 100% perfect, but we do have some predictive validity here. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the ability to rely on the prediction capability also gives you what I call the higher confidence score. So you feel more confident in the decisions you're making, because if you've bought and sold real estate ever, you know everything in real estate is negotiable. Right. All right. Well, when I represent a buyer, I always remind them that the negotiation has already started. They're like, well, what do you mean? We haven't done anything. Interesting. Well, Jay, what's list price? Right.
List price is the first overture by the seller on what they want to make a decision to say yes. So the negotiation has already started. Now, a lot of consumers get confused and they're like, well, then I must do something close to, above, near, somewhere looking like list price. No. How do we know list price is correct?
Right. Well, it's a guess.
It could be a guess, right? It could be manipulated.
It's a predictive guess, right?
Yeah. Well, where I'm going to is the psychology of the seller.
Right.
It could be influenced by the seller's motivation.
Sure.
They may need a fast sale and it may be underpriced.
It could be very emotional.
Right.
Right. So it's less of a fact because, you sometimes have sellers who say, I want to get X number of dollars, regardless of what the house is really worth. So it becomes an emotional reaction saying, this is what I got to have. I don't care what you tell me it is.
Yeah.
And so then it gets listed that way.
And that's the make me move price.
Right.
But very few people, if any, ever list a house for sport. So sometimes what it requires is the market to educate the seller on what a fair price is. Because again, a lot of sellers get confused and they believe they control pricing.
Right.
And this is no disrespect to sellers. I work with sellers all the time. What drives pricing is buyers. Buyers set market pricing. Appraisers don't, sellers don't, real estate agents don't.
Right.
It's whatever the transaction is, where it executes, that sets a new price range for the comparable homes and for that subdivision.
And by the way, I don't care what we're talking about. Buyer sets the price.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter. Well, let's just take the Apple iPhone, right? If nobody bought it, what would happen to the price?
Yeah, exactly. It would go down.
It would change.
So going back to your economics, demand stops.
Absolutely. So now you got to alter price. So it's not just real estate. Anything that where there's demand or no demand changes that fluctuation in that price, right? And I think we forget that sometimes because we get so emotionally attached to the home process because it's my home.
Yes. And it really, if you caught what Jay just said, he said this instinctually a couple times in the mindset of a seller. Home.
Right.
So professionals in the real estate field, when they're trying to support and assist a seller with a transaction, because again, you're selling a house because you're moving on in life. Right. You use the word home.
Right.
What word did I use?
You used house.
I use house all the time.
Because it's emotionally different word.
I'm delinking emotions.
Right. Because it's a very different word. Home has an attachment, an emotional attachment for me, behaviorally and psychologically, that says I made memories here. I did things here. I created things here. I've made it my way. This has all been mine. My colors, my everything. There's an emotional part of me that's attached to my home.
Correct.
But when it's a house, right, it's just an object.
Correct. Or you're beginning that psychological transformation of the next chapter in life.
Right.
So again, I'm not saying list price isn't relevant. It's certainly relevant to how you negotiate, but understanding the market dynamics. And that's one of the things that keeping current on real-time analytics or the current market dynamics will give you a better guidance as a buyer, but also as a seller as to what are the likely expectations. And so an example right now is I've told you that inventory levels have been going up. Now that's total inventories. That includes houses that are under contract. But I told you that the percentage of homes going under contract has dropped. It's at the lowest level as of September 1st for the entire year. So that means buyers are being a little more discriminating, or houses are sitting on the market a little longer. Okay, so Tony, good thought. Is that proven by the numbers? Yes, the median days on market is starting to increase. The average days on market is starting to increase. Okay, well, is that proven out in pricing? Yes, the median home price is coming down month over month. It spiked in May or June, which is typical, right? So again, with market stats or understanding the dynamics of any market you're in, you have to also understand the seasonality.
Okay, so I want to make a little bit of clarity on median, mean, and mode.
Yes.
Because I think it's really important that people understand that statistically. So when we're teaching stats, there's three averages. There's the mean, and there's median, and then a mode. The mode average is one of the easiest to understand, and that is what is the most common number amongst all the numbers. And that's the mode, and we will use that number. You'll see that occasionally in certain situations. Comes to real estate, we tend to like to use the median, which is if I took all the numbers and I lined them all up in order, and I take the middle one, that's the median number, versus the mean average, which is the total of all the numbers divided by the numbers that you have, total number you have. So
quick clarification for you though, I love what you said. I focus on the median.
Right.
A lot of folks talking about real estate will focus on the average,
the mean average.
Right.
Right. And so I think it's important because what the median does do is it eliminates, what people don't understand is it eliminates any sort of bias that can happen with extreme outliers on one side, right? So
a unicorn.
By taking this number. So, let's say you had a number of houses at $200,000, but then you've got 3 houses at 7 million. Well, it's going to adjust your mean average. Whereas the median, right, takes out those 3 out of 100 and says, those don't matter as much. What's in the middle here? So you're using median. I know you like median. And so some people may go, but that's not a fair average. But for us, I think it works better, doesn't it?
I think it's very helpful. I loved your statistician answer. It confused the heck out of me. So it is good. I'm going to be staying in a Holiday Inn Express tonight.
I thought
I'll give you a liberal arts analogy.
Okay.
So Jay, myself, and Bill Gates walk into Starbucks.
Okay.
The average income of the 3 of us in that restaurant, and we're the only 3 people there, is pretty darn high.
Yeah, right.
The median, not so high.
Right.
Bill Gates grabs his latte and leaves. The average of Jay and I now is very close.
Right.
And the median is very close.
Right.
So if you think of it that way, you want to remove, I use the word unicorns. You want to use the words those abnormalities,
the extremes.
Yeah, the extremes.
The extremes, the low end and high end. You want to limit it to both of those.
So, I mean, all are useful. I just personally have a preference for understanding where the break point is.
Right.
Half above, half below. How does that help me guide?
Right.
And by the way, I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the book, but Wake County, which is the greater Raleigh area, the Register of Deeds focuses on median.
Yeah. It just removes the outliers.
Correct.
Is what it does. And so you just don't have the extremes. It takes that middle number. And I think it's a useful number. I really do. And people will see it used all the time. It's just that I think they need to be clear when they say average. Are they referring to median or mean?
So here's a clear example. Median days on market for a house to go under contract September 1st is 5.
Okay.
Average days on market is 19.
Yeah. See, very, very different number, right?
Right.
Very, very different number. And then you have to make a decision, as we learn in statistics, we have to make a decision, which one is the most accurate? Well, in this case, median's probably the most accurate.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take the other side of the coin. The only time I actually look at averages for a large degree is on days on market.
Oh, interesting.
So that wasn't a setup of Jay either.
Yeah.
The only reason for that is it just seems like in my experience right now, especially as a listing agent, I see listing activity. I have history in the market. I know what neighborhoods have done over the course of time in different markets. And it feels like to me, now this is where subjectivity comes in, so bias. It feels like averages on days on market is a good indicator for somebody. But as to price, as to different factors, I think the median is a better gauge. Or you can use all of them. But there's one more stat, Jay.
I would love to hear it.
So it's called the Fink months of inventory.
Okay, Fink months of inventory. I've not seen this one in any journal that I've ever read.
It's still being service marked or trademarked.
Because I've been in the Wall Street Journal, haven't seen this, and I've been in the Triangle Business Journal, still haven't seen it. So
I'm working on it.
Okay,
It's coming to a newspaper close to you soon. If anyone ever reads a newspaper anymore. So months of inventory. What that is a gauge of supply. Okay. Now, the National Association of Realtors, when they do that evaluation, they include homes that are active that you can buy, homes that are coming soon you can buy, and homes that are under contract,
which
you can't buy.
Can't really buy.
So if Jay is my buyer client and I'm working for him and I take him and show him a bunch of houses someone else already bought, pretty sure we're going to have a short duration relationship.
Right.
So I remove the under contract piece. And what I do is I look at the active houses and the coming soon homes. So for simplicity, the homes that a buyer could buy
right now,
standing inventory as of the first, and divide that by the sales pace the prior month, how many homes actually closed.
Okay.
And that gives me an indication. In real estate, somewhere between 4 and 6 months is a balanced market.
Okay.
I've been tracking that for 2 years now. And for this year, for September, it was the highest number it's been, 2.77. So almost 3 months of inventory of available homes that we could purchase in our primary trade market. Got it. Divided by August activity.
Sure. Right. So yeah,
it's definitely telling me, and that number is a little interesting, not to get too wonky on you. That number is a little interesting because it actually would suggest it's a stronger seller market than my boots on the ground experience tells me it is right now. To me, it is very, very balanced.
Right. Well, as we say in statistics, numbers don't lie, but statisticians do. So,
well, I learned this, I think, from one of my sons in college, who all took stats. You can pick the stat to tell the story.
Absolutely.
You want, right?
That's the point.
Doesn't mean you're being manipulative.
No,
but you're cherry picking the numbers.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you can find a stat to become statistically significant.
So when it comes to stats, I'm agnostic and I use the same ones.
Good for you.
And this little cheat sheet, right? It's backed up by 4 pages. I don't know how many lines it is in an Excel spreadsheet. And Jay will get a laugh out of this. My Excel formulas are all Lotus 1, 2, 3 formulas. So I'm dating myself for the audience.
Lotus notes, good for you. That's pretty awesome right there. All right, so we do have some numbers here that indicate if we were to, as we're getting close to close here. So what do you think we're seeing? And then we're going to ask you, because you got this green hat on your lap that we got to talk about.
I'll tell you about the hat.
Okay.
So let me put it in liberal arts speak for you. Right now, interest rates compared to May are down almost 1%.
Okay.
From 7.5-ish down to about 6.5-ish, no points. If you pay an origination point, which most lenders often require, you can be at 6.2.
Right.
Very powerful time for a buyer. Your options as a buyer, and we're talking about a local market, but the national stats would indicate the same in many, many markets, not all markets, but many markets. And a lot of the white hot markets are now not so hot.
Right.
So inventories are up. Sellers, when they sell, need to sell. They only have one thing they can sell. It's not a green hat. They got to sell this house, right? And then you have more options as a buyer. So I would say right now it's a very favorable time. If you want to look at stats, I can tell you year over year, the median home price in Wake County is flat.
Okay.
I can tell you month over month, the median home price in Wake County has come down. It's about $423. Okay. That's as of September 1st.
Wow, that is down. Yeah.
All right. And that's in the Fink numbers, the primary trade area. Wake County itself, it's 455, August 23, August 24.
Okay.
Okay. So it's really a powerful time for a buyer to consider. If you haven't bought your first home, it's a fabulous time to buy your first home. I know a lot of people in the audience probably tired of hearing this. My first mortgage was 9.5%. It was an adjustable rate mortgage, and it could go up 2% each year and 6% in total. 6.2 fixed for 30 years. Pretty friendly.
Well, and there's another piece of this that you just brought up, is that you can negotiate stronger now as a buyer.
Great point. So it depends on the peculiarities of the area that you're in.
Right.
North Carolina is an interesting market in how it works. But yes, I would imagine in any market that's balanced, there's equal leverage, equal ability to negotiate. In North Carolina, it's particularly important because what if there are things you discover when you do inspections of the home after you're under contract?
Right.
And is the seller going to be willing to play ball with you?
Right.
And the answer is yes. It's it's very stressful. It's always stressful for buyers. It's always stressful for sellers. But right now it's a little more pleasant.
Yeah, I agree. This has been great information, but we got to talk about the hat.
All right. So Jay knows I am a diehard Notre Dame fan.
Well, you went there.
I did go there.
You got a child there.
I do have a son there.
Yeah.
And we're fingers crossed he graduates this year. But as Jay knows, Notre Dame's motto is play like a champion. I don't think that was delivered on in one of their last games. So we're converting the motto and we're making it personal for everybody out there in the audience that is considering anything related to real estate on a purchase side. I want you to purchase like a champion.
Oh, beautiful.
How do you purchase like a champion, Jay? You work with a real estate professional that's on top of the market. We just touched on stats. We didn't touch on psychology. We didn't touch on negotiating structures, leverage, or basically how to get to a win-win.
I love that.
And will Notre Dame please win this weekend?
Yes, thank you for Notre Dame. Tony, you've been great as always.
Jay, it's a pleasure to be back. And let me know when you see that in the Wall Street Journal, the Fink facts.
I want to see the Fink stats, and I would love to dig more into these stats sometime in the future because I think it'd be really interesting for folks. So I would love to do some predictive of, what are we seeing in the market and what can we predict that we can do? And this is great for both buyers and sellers. So thank you for doing it. Folks, it's the show. You know what we say to you every week. You have a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you for doing that. Watching us on DBTV, listening to us by podcast. And if you are, give us a thumbs up on YouTube if you've watched us there. And wherever you're listening, give us a 5-star review and make it a positive thing too, that you just love the show. Tell others too. We appreciate that. Subscribe where you can subscribe.
Ask him to bring me back.
Ask for Tony, and so that we can get more Fink statistics. We need some of those. Listen, as I say to you all over the world, you know what that is. Ciao, everybody.